Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amber and this is Fundie Freed. Today we have a very special guest, the one and only Funkmaster V, Vinny Vineyard, pro wrestler, movie maker, lover of many women. And what other things do you describe yourself by?
That's about it. No, that's not true. I'm an actor. I'm a jerk, a-hole, bad father, worse husband, backslidden minister. I don't know what you do. I mean, I'm a musician. I've done a lot of stuff. And I just want to say this will be probably when you say, because I think you're doing great things. And I was very excited to be invited. And I'm lying. I wasn't invited. I kind of was like, you're going to have me on the show, right? Because all my friends do interesting things, and all my friends do things that I think are important. And I'm friends with a lot of artists, but of them all, I think this is the most important and most exciting, and I think actually could become the most successful ventures of all my friends' ideas, and it's important. So I wanted to get on here and jabberjaw with you. The problem is right now we're both night owls, and I've got 3 drinks of different caffeines next to me. I'm not even lying.
Right. I have my coffee
So
that I've reheated 3 times, and I have my other drinks over here on the side. So
word. So yeah, I'm going to try to formulate English sentences, but yeah, I'm excited about being here because I think this is going to be pretty exciting. I think me and you have a unique story, and I'm excited to tell that. And I think, you know, when we're doing stuff, because you help us make movies, and we did a
mhm.
podcast for about a year, and there was stuff that you've helped with PR with, and you'll continue to do so, I hope. But I'm always in the driver's seat, and I want you to kind of drive the ship today. And I've always kind of talk over everybody just because I'm an
It's true.
a-hole. I'm an a-hole like that. I've said a lot more words than you have already. But I want you to kind of take control today. But I think my on a channel like yours, I'm definitely coming from the exact opposite of what most of your guests have come from. I've always been an outsider to religion. I've always been an outsider to fundamentalism and an enemy of fundamentalism. I think it's an awful
Mhm.
thing. And I saw you very young, and I was like, what's going on with that chick? First time I saw you.
It,
So
it was
anyway,
that was pre tattoo, Amber. Now I know that you disapprove of these things
well,
on my body, but it's
what
fine.
it's very funny how things flip flop around.
It is.
Yeah,
So you and I go way back into like 2008, 2009. I think that's whenever we first met.
I think it
Was
was.
around 2008, 2009, because it was right around the recession.
I think it was before that.
2007, maybe.
Because I was in a band called Pimpin' Ain't Easy,
Mm-hmm.
and Flipside Runner is what we would also be known as. But I quit that band in 2008, and I know for a fact that I was playing in that band when we met each other. So,
Yeah, because I was on the team at GMAC with one of your bandmates, because I remember them.
oh yeah, Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Did he hit on you?
Yes, he did.
Did he really?
I
I'm gonna
had,
have to talk to him about that.
yeah. The only thing is, I didn't know what he was doing because I was still in denim skirts. So,
Well,
you know.
you blew the punchline, Tracy. I was going to tell you about. I just want to slide into that. So,
Hey, you told me to take control, so this is what I'm doing.
okay,
I'm just
I'm
gonna steal
sorry.
all your jokes.
Well, you got to set it up appropriately, honey. So anyway, the
This.
Do you want to go back into how we met, and maybe that's
Yes.
the best
Yes.
way?
Let's
Because
go
I bet.
into how we met, and then you can kind of talk about your background and how you kind of got into religion and all that stuff.
Okay. So how we met, we worked for General Motors Acceptance Corporation, which was, and I got promoted to be a supervisor. Was I direct? Your direct supervisor, or
No.
was I ever? Okay, I don't remember that. So I was just around your area. I guess I like perusing around, talking to everybody. But this little girl
No,
named
not you.
this little girl named Amber. I noticed very cute, big, giant, puffy chipmunk cheeks. You just want to go, ooh. She was always wonderful and sweet. And I remember
Hold on. Pause. I think my guinea pig got trapped under the cage. 1 second. Are you guys okay? Yeah, he tipped his hay thing over on top of him, and he was squealing because he thought he was dying. Okay. He's better now.
That's awesome. Are you guys okay? I just like how Americans, we always ask that question. Anyway, we're so optimistic. Yes. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll pick it back up. So there was this so anyway, I noticed, Amber, we used to have casual Fridays, and it's where you get to wear blue jeans, right? So that was exciting for people, I guess. It was a cheap way for management to give us a reward. And I noticed that this girl, Amber, would wear these horrible blue jean skirts that would go all the way down to her ankles. And I would just sit there, and I'm neurotic, okay? So I'm this neurotic Yankee a-hole. And I'd look at this, and I mean, the blue jean was like, God, it was like constrictive and just, I just one day I remember asking, I was like, why do you wear, I mean, if you're not going to wear pants, because I kind of figured out at the point that you're not, I said, those things look worse than a regular skirt would. At least a skirt would be flowing. And that is just like, it looks like you're in a boa constrictor type outfit or something. And just like your legs, and I bet you would sweat. And so that, I think something along those lines is what started the dialogues between me and you about religion in the workplace. By the way, I'm probably the most inappropriate human being in the world.
You are.
I'm very unemployable. That's why I work for myself, and I do whatever I want to do. And thank God that I make enough money to pay the bills. You
took me out on a date while we were there. Took me to sushi.
Yes, I got you on sushi. So anyway, which is a good thing. You had sushi yesterday, I know for a fact.
I did.
But anyway, so I started that trend. So you interested me because I saw, between all the flirting and me and you having fun together, and just how the work environment and the rapport that we built, I saw a woman in chains. That's kind of what I saw spiritually, and so I wouldn't want to say you're a project, because that sounds condescending, but you were somebody there was value in trying to plant seeds of liberty inside of you, I think. I didn't mean for that to sound as dirty as it sounded, probably, but
it was terrible, but it's fine. We'll keep going.
So yeah, your housewives right now that watch your show are all like, what am I watching? What has happened? But I always feel like the most effective way for me to spread the gospel, which you can tell, I'm way in left field as far as this religion stuff is concerned, but I'm on the team, as they say. I always tell people I'm on the team, but I'm not on the team bus. I'll drive to the game. I'll meet you guys there, but I'm not going to get on the bus with you, because most Christians I don't get along with, and I think they have an upside down view of what is really important as far as having a relationship with God or whatnot. So Anyway, I do a lot of rabbit trails too, so you're going to
Yeah,
everybody's
we're gonna veer back. We're
yeah,
back
we're
to
gonna
GMAC. Drive that
right.
bus
So
right back.
yeah, so but yeah, I thought you were somebody that there was a value, and for me, I always think it's important to plant seeds. I think a lot of Christianity, a lot of Christians are worried about evangelism, and it comes down to Calvinism and Arminianism and stuff like that, and how much
Yes.
sweat you have to put into stuff. But I kind of feel that the seed planting tactics, or just saying a sentence or so to make people think, I think that's more important than preaching. And I feel like, and this is what I wanted to come across to you, because I know there's people probably that are going to watch your channel. I know it's small now and it's growing, and I think it's going to be really big one day if you keep it up. And it's all about consistency and putting the content out there. And if you keep doing that, this is just going to be a huge thing to help a lot of people. And if they go back and watch this show with this weird guy that you had on your show, I think the thing, if there's people that hate you and they think that you're doing wrong and you're misled, I will tell you, because I think the reason you have me on the show is because I'm somebody who was completely on the polar opposite of the fundamentalist trick.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys were trying to put me in the fundamental. You guys always want to put people in the fundamentalism trick bag. And one reason I want to get out here is to say, from somebody who is so far away in the demographic of a human being that you want to reach, I got to tell you, there is nothing less attractive than fundamentalism. And I know because of our conversations and conversations I've had with other people, the idea that you dress modestly, you wear the denim skirts on business casual Friday, you don't partake in drinking, you don't partake. All of that stuff is strange. It's not attractive. It doesn't create wonder of like, wow. It makes people feel bad for you, because as holy and as together that you guys think you look like, it just exposes the fact that you're broken and confused, and it just really puts a spotlight on the hypocrisy of trying to be holy as a human being. It's impossible. Yes. Human beings are broken. Human beings are not perfect. We're incapable of really perceiving ourselves outside of our own wants and needs. So as you're walking around like, I bet I'm attracting all these people to Christ, you're repelling people because you look weird and you're not real. Because I know human beings. I'm an expert in human behavior. I'm not smart on much, but I'm an expert on people, and I can see right through the bullshit. And I see with that facade so many cracks, and it doesn't fool me. It never has fooled me. In fact, it makes me angry, because I don't think God deals, or I don't think God really digs these masks that we always try to put on, and all these hoops that we try to jump through. And there's, sure, I mean, should you have came to work in an S&M outfit with spiked, cone bras and a whip to work, even though I think that would have been interesting to see, I don't think, there's always extremes in all this. Yes, I do agree. I do agree with that. But the whole obsession over hair and pants, and I think, moreover, that's not a thing about God. It's a thing about the patriarchy and trying to keep women in control.
100%.
Keep them not
Subjugated.
In control. Yes, keep them subjugated. Yeah, and kind of have them in their own trick bag on the side. So, so we would have conversations, and you were always polite. The one thing I could say about you never got angry. And I used to like when it comes to Mormons or people that were fundamentalists or whatever, I always loved trying to piss them off, because I knew they would feel bad. But it wasn't me trying to make people feel bad. It was just me trying to expose the fact, I know you're a human being, dumbass. I'm a human being too. You're no better than me. No
Right.
matter how many chains you put on your arms, no matter how many chains you put on your legs, no matter how, you're wearing your hair suit. Is that the right? Yeah, you wear your hair suit.
suit.
Yeah, you wear your hair suit, and you pretend like you're suffering in the field, and you're persecuted. And so when people look at you weird, and people go, God, look at this guy, and he a knucklehead. You guys go, we're persecuted. No,
Yes.
you're just weird, and you're following a bunch of stuff that is archaic. And again, I'm a libertarian. If that's what floats your boat, that's what you want to do at the end of the day, wonderful. But I can tell you, just through human experience, and you can tell by the church numbers, guys. I mean, church looks like bowling night on a Tuesday afternoon, or it looks like a roller rink on a Monday morning. Looks like a strip club.
I was about to say, it looks like a Thursday morning strip club.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, there's nobody going. You guys aren't winning. This facade is not working. It's because of the facade, of the hypocrisy, of the haughtiness, looking down your nose at people. This is what's running people out of the church. This is not dragging people into church. People are leaving churches in droves. We heard a story from a friend of ours the other day. The pastor got up there. I don't know what's going on. Pastor said the N word in church and said somebody should kill Joe Biden. And one of those old people, thank God for him, I'd like to shake his hand, stood up in the middle of the church and said, that's the most unchristian thing I've ever heard of a supposed man of God say in a house of God. Is to say the N word, and you want to assassinate the president of the United States, or somebody you put a hit out on, and the people turned, yeah, and the guy left. Guess what? He's never going back to that church again. There is no God there.
Well, and here's the interesting thing where the hypocrisy comes in. If someone had come in and said that against Trump, that whole church would have become a mob and lynched the person who said that.
He's under the duress of Satan.
Yes.
Yeah. And, my feelings about, I don't like Biden or Trump, but Trump being heralded by this right-wing religious movement. I mean, you guys have lost your credibility for years. I don't mean politically. We can argue if Trump was good politically or not, but morally, the fact that you guys supported this real estate con man from Queens who was a dirtbag who traded in multiple wives for younger versions, bragged about groping women and
being attracted to his daughter. He even vocally said he was attracted to his daughter.
Yeah,
like, I mean, he's just a scumbag. But
well, and also he's just not to get too political, it's just like that. This is another thing where the religion's lost in the weeds, man. Hold on, Lenny Kravitz. Oh my God.
Tell him I said hi.
Well, Lenny's worried about Lisa Bonet. He's always texting me. He's like, God, he shouldn't have cheated on her, man. That's what I'm saying. Be moral. But, we had conversations back at work, and I should have been fired long ago because we shouldn't have religion.
It was a different time then.
It was. Yeah, it was. It was a little
really
bit different. And, but, and we fell out, and I didn't get fired, but I was asked to leave, like I do with almost every job I work at. And we I didn't know you for years, and you went off, and I think you married Sam after I quit, and then you went to Germany, and then we reconnected in 2020 face to face.
Yes.
But we kind of got on each other's radar because of social media, and sometimes that's a wonderful thing. So
I voted for you for governor, so that's my
did you really?
I did. I followed you during the governor campaign.
You were the one. You were the one that voted for me. I need to get you a gift bag.
You should. Just hire me for a movie. It's fine.
I did.
You did.
Multiple.
Your debt is paid.
Yeah. We had to edit you out because you were terrible, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got my 1 minute of fame. It's fine.
You'll be back.
Yeah. So we reconnected, like you said, via social media, kind of here and there around 2020, but around 21 is whenever you were really gearing up for WJHC AM, the second movie in the Smoky Mountain Chronicles. And I remember messaging you because you put out I need extras and actors, and I was like, do you mind having a curvy plus size woman in your movie? And you're like,
Never.
come on.
Yeah, I never mind that. Yeah. Yeah, that was and that's how we reconnected. And you know, that movie, again, I don't know. I know I have this awful view of your fan base just being all these beautiful women that are in their 30s and 40s with the news anchor hair, and they watch your show with coffee and when the kids get off to school. So I mean, I don't think it's a movie for them. It's a movie that's it's a comedy, it's a horror, it's about my life. Oddly enough, 80 to 90% of the movie is fantastic as the movie is, or fantastical. It is fantastic, but you know, it's all true. There's some comedy dialed up to 11 on some of the. There was never a referee in the scene where the people were having the tongues off, but the tongues off did happen.
Well, let's explain that, because it sounds like an X-rated movie.
A what? It sounds like a what?
It sounds like an X-rated movie. The tongues off.
Oh, the tongues off.
Two people speaking in tongues in the spirit, and they were battling it out like a battle royale.
Yeah, that was actually a scene that Candy wrote. Candy Thompson, who's my girlfriend in the first movie that I did called the Hike, me and Luke did. She wrote this scene because she actually witnessed, and this is the one scene in the movie that was a religious part of the movie that I didn't witness myself. She was at a revival or one of those things, and the people were having a tongues. Well, I don't know. They were speaking in tongues, and somehow it became aggressive to each other. There was like two people who were trying to, I guess they were wanting the attention or whatever. And so if people don't know what tongues is, because you guys don't do the tongues thing, do you?
No, Baptists do not know.
Yeah, okay. So the speaking in tongues thing is where you're speaking supposedly in another language, and it's supposed to be totally Holy Spirit powered. It sounds like nonsense. I think it is nonsense for most of the time because it's not a language that anybody's ever heard of before. It sounds like yabba dabba doo over and over again. Like if somebody from Tennessee started speaking in Chinese and they didn't know how to speak in Chinese, then I would be like, that's got to be something pretty. But when you're up there going blah 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 blah, gooba 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 goo, gooba blah 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 blah, yabba dabba doo, it's like, what language is that? Do you think the angels walk around going humana 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 humana? I don't know. To me,
that would be a good skit. Humana.
There you go. They actually speaking in tongues. But so anyway, this scene in the movies where these two people, it was set up like a boxing match. It was a referee that looks like Mills Lane, if anybody remembers him from Celebrity Death Match, and the referee from the match where Mike Tyson bit off Evander Holyfield's ear. We got a dead ringer for Mills Lane to be our boxing, to be the tongues off. Which I'm an old blues guy. They used to have these things called cutting heads. So this was like set up like Crossroads with Ralph Macchio and Joe Seneca, and mixed with boxing. So we had a scene that was kind of like a competition, boxing competition between people speaking in tongues, and it was based on reality. So the movie is also kind of like my testimony to God in a way, but it does poke fun at a lot of tropes. And you got to understand, I didn't see, where I come from, I didn't see any of this stuff. I was trying to get in a radio, and it was one of those radio stations that has church services in the radio station. You had windows because you were actually producing this show, and you had hard times and stuff. You had to click off and go to the next show, and those knuckleheads would be in there doing handstands and jumping off the walls and stuff as the next show would come on the air.
Preacher parkour.
Yeah, right. And so anyway, I've never been a fan of legalism. I've never been a fan of that kind of, again, I'm a libertarian. You can believe what you want, do what you want if nobody's getting hurt. The problem is your show's exposing that a lot of people do get hurt. In religions like this, because there is a lot of mistruth. There's a lot of misconceptions. I think some of it may be innocent. I think some of it's not innocent. And I think a lot of people, I don't understand how people do the mental gymnastics of the evil that they walk in every day, and then thinking that because they're not wearing tattoos, or they don't listen to hip hop, or they only watch PG movies, that somehow that is making people jump a little higher on the holiness scale. One allegory I like is we're all trying to jump to the moon, and some people may get 10 feet off the ground and build a ramp. And some people are fat and they have bad knees and they only get like 2 inches off the ground. And the people that jump 10 feet off the ground and land on a bunch of mattresses look at the fat people with the bad knees and go, ha ha, I'm jumping so much closer to the moon than you. But in all honesty, we're millions of miles away. Or I'm not a scientist, hundreds of thousands of miles away. That's a good, that will cover my ass. So anyway, we're not close. Nobody's close. So this holier than thou legalism, and it all it does is make you look like an asshole. I mean, that's the truth. And
it really does.
I'm talking from somebody who I wasn't an atheist, because I didn't even know what that word was. We didn't have religion. I didn't hear about God for a large chunk of my life. I mean, I know that seems weird now, and especially down south, that seems like, what? But I mean, nobody ever talked about God. Nobody talked about Jesus. Nobody talked about Buddha. My life was survival. I came from a bad situation too, trying not to piss off Dad. Lenny Kravitz. I am so sorry. Let me turn this down. Lenny Kravitz is just, Jason Mimosa left Lisa Bonet, and now he thinks there's a chance, and there's no chance. But anyway,
poor guy.
Yeah, I know, he's just lovesick. So the so I mean, my life was survival, trying to figure out how not to get beat up by my dad. And so there was no God. And then there was no debate either. It was just a void of God. There was just a non-awareness. And then I was introduced to religion. My mom joined. My mom was one of those people who, like a lot of abused women, had no friends. She was a housewife. Her job was to take care of the family. And somewhere along the lines, she started to struggle with some of those responsibilities, and she reached out and had friends in the house, which was weird because we never had friends over. And that's a sure sign of abuse, right? Like when you don't expose your family to other friends and neighbors and stuff coming over. That's a sure sign if things aren't going so hot. And so we were kind of reclusive. And to have Mom all of a sudden have these strange middle-aged women in the house, and they were part of this thing called a prayer group. And they were the type of people that would literally take parts of the Bible, like pick up snakes, and they wouldn't pick up the snakes themselves, but they would kind of they got hung up on a lot of the allegory as actual commandments, like, I don't know, like you should be able to drink poison
and not die.
Stuff like that. So none of that happened, or they would have been dead. But so that was,
and they just had it right the whole time.
So that was right. That's true. Maybe they did it when I wasn't in the room, but that was my first experience, and that wasn't flattering for anybody who's trying to pitch religion as a sales job to me. And then we got involved in a Lutheran church, because they were Missouri Synod Lutherans. They were from Baltimore. And so Lutheran didn't excite me either. I thought everything smelled weird in the church. And then I kind of got involved with a non-denominational youth group, which was kind of born out of this hippie church. And so my first real experiences with Christianity was from the hippie. It was like the remnants of the hippie days. And so the leaders of that were kind of like, hey, man, Jesus is cool, right? And they'd play fucking the Eagles, and a peaceful, easy feeling and stuff. So,
Take it easy.
right, take it easy. So that's that's what stuck with me is that's my Jesus, is the homeless hippie Jesus, and I felt God in that place, and I saw how people loved each other, and um, I got some father figures to follow, and what it means to be a real man, how not to terrorize your family, how not to be a coward and pick on the women and children at home, and how to be a man of God and a man of strength. But I got a lot of liberty from that too. There was not a lot of dogma in that religion. There were things they were probably wrong about, because a lot of Christian churches were wrong about stuff in the 90s and the late 80s and stuff. But there was, they would be the first ones to admit when they were incorrect about something socially or politically. So, and then I had an experience, and that I don't tell this story to many people. I don't know if I'll share it today either, but it's real personal. But it's how I found God for real, and kind of knew that he was real. So I've never had a problem with faith after this day, because it was kind of this, in the movie WJHC, Davion Bristol, who's a wrestler slash rap artist out of Asheville, North Carolina, is this fella that's walking down, and he looks like he's about to commit suicide. Funny note to that part of the movie, I didn't realize that he had terrible foot problems. So I was like, walk all the way down the bridge. And he's like, I can barely walk, man. And I'm like, what?
That poor guy.
So if you watch the movie, he only can walk about 20 feet. Like if he jumped off of that point of the bridge, he wouldn't have hurt himself. He would have hurt himself, but he wouldn't have died. There is a part of the bridge where if he did jump off, it would have been kind of hairy, but he couldn't walk that far. So we kind of had to do everything on the short side and kind of shoot it to where it looked like it was more harrowing than it was. But anyway, going back to the thing, there's this thing where this guy is jumping off, and I'm in a suicidal state. In real life, I've never been suicidal. I was really down in the dumps after a girl did break up with me, though. And there was, because when you're in your early 20s, everything's over, in your teenage years, early 20s, everything is so magnified as far as that kind of stuff is concerned. Like, oh my God. And you kind of grow out of that stuff. But pardon me. So Davion almost committing suicide. You later learn in the movie that he was something, not a person. Like his suicide attempt was fake, and it was a way for him to communicate to me directly. Well, that didn't happen. There was no suicidal jumper in real life. Actually, the story that happened in real life was probably more fantastic. It just is not as good cinematically. But it was a situation like that where something kind of just buck wild happened to me, and I'm blessed for it. But and I've been able to keep my faith. And as I've gotten older and I've seen the Trump administration and how the religious people acted towards that, how the religious people act towards gay people, how religious people act towards gay drag queens now, and the transgendered people, and how they still talk about minorities ignorantly. I might have lost my faith along the way because I don't like how religious people are portraying themselves. And I don't think it's right. And so I probably would have lost my faith if it wasn't for that particular moment, which I'm thankful for. Because of that, I just now kind of think, and this is what I know, is that everybody's relationship with God is individual. So it can't be controlled by a sweaty, fat ass dude in a suit behind a pulpit. His version and his path to God is different than anybody else's. So when he's up there screaming in the mic and he's got spit flying everywhere and he's telling you how to live, that's not right. It's right for him, maybe, or maybe it's not even. Maybe he's delusional. Maybe he's an evil person and he's just trying to deceive people for money, or who knows. And in your case, there's a lot of those guys seem like they're up there because they like the power rub, they like the stroke, and
Mm-hmm.
they like to have sex with little girls. I think is what a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these dudes are into, and maybe
Yeah.
they like tax-free money, and they like everybody calling them past. They're uneducated guys, but they get to be called reverend and shit. And they don't have to have a degree. They don't even have to go to school. They get all this fake
Well, even
notoriety.
in the pastors in the world I grew up in taught that it was a sin to go to Bible college, that a true preacher was called by God and taught by God through the Bible, not
Yeah,
and that if you went to Bible college, they took God out of you, like
sure.
they educated God out of you.
Yeah,
There's
there's
like
a lot.
a
Yeah.
lot of ignorance that still is very prevalent because of that.
Well, it's all about self edification, right? It's all about
Mm-hmm.
us versus them. I'm broke. I'm poor. I don't have any money. Those
Yes.
people are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stupid. I couldn't graduate college if I had somebody cheating for me and taking my test for me because I'm that stupid. But I'll get up in front of a group of people and tell them what God thinks with a bunch of ignorant personal opinions about stupid shit that will probably change in 15 years. Um, so I mean that's what you gotta, so that's the kind of stuff that I kind of war against.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this show is so attractive to me, is because this is, this what you're doing is you're drawing a line in the sand. And I think the people that come out of the places that you've come out of and endured the family abuse, that have endured the church abuse, that are trying to figure it out, I think people that get out are kind of like prisoners of war. They're just lucky to be alive. They go back home and they just try to pay the bills, raise their family, and they don't have the energy to combat
Mm-hmm.
something as large as fundamentalism and as evil and as dark as that can be, and all the evil facets of that world. You have to. It's like fighting a dragon with a sword. You're not going to get a lot of victories in the beginning. And I think the one thing about social media and the internet that's great is that your voice, as soon as people start, maybe not this show, but all your other quality shows that you've done, um, once they start pontificating that and preaching it and saying, hey, sharing it and liking it and getting kind of on the Amber Fundie free train, I think this can have a powerful effect. And at least be a salve for people that are trying to lick their wounds. Um, and I know that you told me a lot of these people that get out of these things lose their faith, and
Mm-hmm.
how can you blame them? I mean,
Right.
everything that they were told was a lie, and they were hurt in this environment. A lot of people were hurt. So why would you believe in God? I don't think I would believe in God. Um, and so the fact that you've retained your faith is a testament to the faith that it can be done. And I think that's an important thing too, is that you don't have to give up on spirituality or God because a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
evil, asshole, abusing, cowardly, stupid, hurtful, selfish, weak men twisted something beautiful and used it to hurt people. In fact, I think
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's listening to this, I know there's people that listen to this, if you used God to hurt people, I can't wait to see what God does to you, man. If you've sexually molested children or in the name of God, or you twisted the Bible for your own devices or whatever, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens to your ass, because it's not going to be pretty. And you better get on your
No.
knees now and beg for forgiveness, because if there is a God, uh, yeah, he's going to take you out behind the woodshed, man. That's going to be rough
There's
when you.
a there's a scripture that says that it's better for a millstone to be wrapped around their neck and then to be thrown into the sea than to hurt or lead the little ones astray or the people astray.
Nah, that's right.
And
That's right to them. They skip right over that one.
well, they like to use it as, well, look at these TV preachers, or look at like Benny Hinn. They're leading these people astray, but I have the truth. You need to stay here because it's safe. When in reality, they're the ones that are doing the most damage and hurting the most people, because they're not only like verbally abusing, they're spiritually abusing. They're taking advantage of people who need this community and need this, and people follow in droves because it's easier to follow someone who is charismatic and in charge than to figure it out themselves.
I know you're a Star Wars fan because you said something about when you went to Disney World that the Star Wars thing was really cool.
Yes.
I am too. The prequels sucked. I'm one of those people who thinks the sequels are better than the prequels. But anyway, I wasn't sold on the Mandalorian.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, the prequels were terrible. The Mandalorian, I wasn't sold on in the beginning, but there was an episode, and the second season was fantastic. There was a scene that's got the comedian Bill Burr and Pedro Pascal. He's the Mandalorian. They break into a stormtrooper facility. And I think they're trying to find Grogu or something. I can't remember what they're doing. But anyway, they're doing something. Yeah, they're in there doing something. It's high drama. Big plot flaw. By the way, we make movies and people, who some people don't like our shit. Dude, this Star Wars stuff has millions and millions of dollars. And it's a scene, it's like, take your helmet off so we can do a retinal scan, right? And this is for Pedro Pascal to pass the Mandalorian to pass a stormtrooper check, right? And the whole thing is this religion. By the way, talking about legalism, don't take your helmet off. He finally decides to take his helmet off and look into the retinal scanner, right? And it was a big moment because he showed his face in front of human beings. What they forgot to do was, what was the retinal scanner for? Just to see if you have an eyeball? If you were in the system as a stormtrooper, shouldn't the red lights and shit went off, right?
Right.
So it's like, who is making these TV shows and stuff? Wasn't there somebody like wasn't there like a gaffer or a grip holding the thing?
I'm pretty sure there was.
Hey man, this don't make no sense. Shut up. It's a big part of the show. Yeah, but he's not a stormtrooper though. But anyway, all that to be said, I didn't want to get off on that tangent. We'll see, we go off on tangents. This is what our podcast used to be like, and why nobody watched it.
It's fantastic.
It's terrible. So anyway,
it is. Don't watch it.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a scene right after that where they're talking to like an a-hole Imperial officer, and this is one of the things when I heard this hit me. You talked about me running for governor before, and I can't understand why people don't want to vote for liberty. And this guy, this evil person in Star Wars, one of the Empire people, what he said rang true to me. You talk about finding God and finding truth. I find truth in God in places that aren't the Bible and aren't in church, because I think it's more, we go into church, it gets all cluttered up. But what he said to me, do you know what I'm about to say? Do you remember this?
I don't remember this. I'm excited to hear it.
So he's talking to Bill Burr, and Bill Burr is a former stormtrooper, right? His character. And they're talking about certain wars and how bad it was. And the guy does a real good job being evil. Like he seems like he would be an Empire, and it wasn't even cartoonish. It was just, he seems like a brainwashed, almost like a Nazi kind of soldier or something. And he says, they were talking about wiping out a civilization on this planet that was trying to fight for freedom. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, freedom. Everybody always talks about freedom, but people don't want freedom. People want to be ruled, and they want to be told what to do. And when he said that, man, I was like, holy damn, this is why people vote for Republicans. This is why people vote for Democrats. This is why people go to these churches in droves, because people, it's not, and I'll tell you something, there's truth to that, because liberty is scary. Freedom is scary. It's nice to be safe. It's nice to everything's going to be okay. But I'm somebody who needs truth. I'm somebody who needs liberty. I'm somebody who needs freedom. I need to make my own decisions. I can govern myself. There's things that I do. I run my own business. It's been very slow for the last 10 days. I'm sitting there like, I don't have a guaranteed paycheck. Some days, I'll tell you, some days I'm like, good God, I made $1,100 a day. I'm going to be the richest mother effer in the world. And this week, I think I've made like $280 all week. And I'm like, no.
That's why you didn't come for sushi. You were broke.
I've always got a little money on the side, thank God. But it is getting a little bit like maybe I won't eat soup. Maybe I'll eat a bowl of cereal instead of going out and eat sushi today to make things make it all right. But yeah, man,
it's true though. Like in liberty, it becomes personal responsibility, and people do not want personal responsibility. They like the ability to blame the other person or the other man. So if they're inside these boundaries and someone bounces off, like, oh wait, they're stepping outside of that wall, that box that they're supposed to stay in, and outside of that box there's no rules, and that scares people because people want to be told what to do. People want to be told what to do. They want to be told how to dress, what is right, what is wrong. They don't want to make those decisions for themselves. And I think that's why they stay in the churches.
Give me 1 second. Can you pause this and edit this out, okay?
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
It is, speaking of business, it is business. I got to see what's going on here.
You're fine.
Hey, did you get it, girl? All right, man. Thank you. All right. My wife has to pick because I'm doing a show. My wife's picking up a customer today, and I thought she was asleep still in the other room, and she had to be somewhere. So anyway, all right. So I understand. Here we go. We're going to try to match my face up where it was. So anyway,
Okay.
I'm about to retort with what you said. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, so I think there are definitely people who aren't stormtroopers. They're not locksteppers. And those are people like you and me. And there was, I screw with people out of love. It never comes from it. And when I saw you at 19, I was screwing with you because I was trying to get you to maybe come to the center a little bit on your hardline beliefs. And I thought there was really some sweetness and some goodness in you. And you weren't just, a stuck up bitch, for lack of a better word. You were redeemable. And I think everybody is, but some people just don't heed the call. And,
Right.
And from what you said, I mean, you've always had a war going on inside of you over this religion thing and over this legalism thing. And, you helped. I don't think it's any coincidence really that you helped make a movie that kind of poked fun at that and as a tool. I dedicated it to a friend of mine, Rachel Bird Ewing, and I'll tell you about her a little bit. And this was a girl. I'm a professional wrestler. I don't do it very much. That's where Funkmaster V comes from. That, and I used to play. I'm a bass player too, so that came from that as well. But I was a wrestler, and I used to have beautiful women because beautiful women are wonderful. I love them. And I used to have beautiful women that would walk me down the aisle, and they would call valets in wrestling. And always great fun. You can always incorporate them into matches. They're always good for if you're a bad guy, which I've always been. You can see how I kind of present myself. I'm a bad guy type. It's kind of funny. I'm a Christian, but I still come off as this gruff, opinionated asshole. I don't know how your people are going to take me, man. I hope we don't. People may just stop. I hope they don't stop watching you because you had me on the show. But anyway,
No, you're fine.
There was a storyline in wrestling where I was the baby face, which is a term for good guy. I was the champion of this league for about all summer. And they decided they wanted me to drop the title. So I lost the belt, and I kind of went crazy because I'm a better bad guy than I'm a good guy. So there was a point where me and my valet, the lovely Rachel Bird, we kind of got involved in we kind of came under the guise of a cult leader. And I changed my name, like I took my identity away, which is what a lot of people did. I changed my name to the artist formerly known as Funkmaster V, which is a homage to Prince, but it's also people remove their identity when they join these cult-like things. And so my valet started wearing that Tammy Faye eye makeup on, and she would, every promo that we would cut, she would just start crying, and the stuff would start running down her cheeks. And we were poking fun. It was kind of funny. We were called the Just, and the stable, we were bad guys, but it was the leader of the thing was called God's Will, which was a wonderful play on words, because he could say, you could say something like, I'm going to do everything because of God's will. And it could mean we thought it was God, or we could have thought of this guy named William that calls himself God's Will. And we were the Just. All the other wrestlers were called the Unjust. It was a wonderful stable. And for some reason, they pulled the plug, and it right when it was getting good. And the promos were great because they were kind of there's all these different levels. And the guy that runs the thing, he's an atheist. It's not like it was a religious thing. It was just, we were just kind of just a storyline for a little while. Mm-hmm. And so I had a match called the prayer cloth match. You guys don't do prayer cloths, right? With the anointing oil, or okay.
No, so anyways, that's more Pentecostal and charismatic.
So, okay, I get them all confused. They're all weird to me. So the charismatic people, I had a prayer cloth match, but it had ether on it. I was trying to heal them because of God's will or whatever, but I was trying to knock them out so I could pin them. None of it made sense. It's for children, okay? So, and we got paid well.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and anyway, the thing fell on my face, knocked me out, and the good guy pinned me. And so, anyway, that's how that went. So, but I remember, because Rachel was a Christian, and she was like, this is kind of towing the line. I said, I think it's good, because I think it shows people how dangerous cult mentality is, and how we were the most popular thing at this wrestling promotion this summer, and how a cult has made us these sniveling, wimpy, sheep type people who are weird, because that's how I view fundamentalism and Pentecostal and that, because it's just weird. It's just not, it's not holy. They think they're holy. They're just fucking strange, man, is all they are. And they're making themselves look like a schmuck. And then when people go, you're kind of gross, and then I don't like how you're coming off, they go, oh, I'm being persecuted. No, you're just weird. I mean, go out in a town with no pants on and say, I'm doing it for God. And when people go, Jesus, put some pants on, dude, and go, I'm being persecuted in the name of the Lord. Right. That's, to me, it's the same thing. So, so I was telling her, I was like, yeah, I think this is good. It shows people the dangers of cults. Well, Rachel loved black dudes, and all her boyfriends were black, and they were, all the ones I ever met were wonderful men. And she met a guy named Kip, and Kip is a effing excellent human being. However, Kip and Rachel got into this cult, and she dropped off Facebook for a while. Again, here we go. You're being taken away from your friends. She was a very good friend. She was as close as me and you, Amber. And so she disappeared, and it hurt my heart. I didn't know what happened to her. And I know life happens. She started a family. She was taking care of kids that weren't hers and stuff. And hey, I get it. But man, at least let's talk every once in a while. Let's go out and have a meal, or at least reminisce about the good old days when what we used to do in wrestling and stuff, or whatever. I worked with her too. That's how I met her. And so they joined this cult where the real Israelites are African Americans, and nobody's going to heaven except for black people. And I wonder why she wanted to join that cult, because she was white as the damn other side of a notebook sheet of paper. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if you're having sex with a black dude, it gets you in, and you get on like a lower level or something. But she joined this cult. She said goodbye to all her friends. And I was like, we just did 3 years ago, we just did a whole storyline about how dangerous cults are.
Right.
And she didn't talk to her mother. Now, that was a big deal. Her and her mother were best friends. You hear about them women and people who say my parents are my best friends and stuff. That was one where she talked to her mom all day. She didn't talk to her mom no more. You couldn't talk to anybody outside of that cult. And lo and behold, man, she got sick. And she's a beautiful young woman. and just full of life. Nobody, you've never met anybody like this person. And she got sick, and they wouldn't let her go get cancer treatment until it was too late, and because they were going to pray it away. And the last few pictures of her are horrible. And they let her childhood friend come in and talk to her, and she could talk to her mom at the end, and then she died just fast. And she was dead within a couple months. And
That's so sad. Oh my gosh.
And she was the most beautiful soul, just a unique human being. She looked like a runway model, but she would fart and these nasty farts. I remember one time we were driving to Georgia, and she said, "I'm hungry. Can we get some fast food?" We were driving together, me and her. I said, "Well, when we get close to Georgia, we'll get something for you." She goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, I don't want to be in the car with your farts the whole way down to effing Georgia." So, I mean, she was just a nut, man. She was a crazy person. So, but that's one reason we made this movie, was because the people that hurt each other in the name of God. And I do believe, the whole point about WJHC, or one of the main points, is it's a horror movie, and it's a fable about Y2K. What if Y2K really was what fundamentalists thought when Jesus came back? And I think one thing I don't think we've ever articulated on any media, because we do interviews and stuff about this all the time, is it showed most of the people who were fundamentalist people did not go to heaven that night.
Right.
We use the ideology of the rapture being a instantaneous thing, and you either disappeared or you were around. Yeah. And then all the people that didn't disappear were attacked by zombies and hobgoblins, and Sam was a zombie in the movie, and he was eating your stomach. There was, and there's, so, I mean, we use their world to illustrate the fact that the people that think they're going aren't going. And we didn't use that really as a baseball bat. Like, the movie's not very preachy, right? It just lets you know, because all the people working at the radio station were still there. All the people who were calling in, there were like some people that kind of disappeared. The children took off, or one or two people, but most of the people that were listening to that god awful radio show, which is based on a real life Southern gospel radio station, didn't go. And I'm not saying that I think everybody's going to go to hell or anything like that, but it was just to illustrate that, in my opinion, as a filmmaker, and what I wanted to say is what people are obsessed about as far as religion is concerned, or God, or a relationship with Christ, or any sort of deep spirituality, is stuff that we're so far off base, man. We're worried about Trump and Biden. We're worried about drag queens. We're worried about homosexual people having sex with each other. We're worried about policies that, we're worried about other people dealing stuff with their own bodies and stuff. It's like, look, man, politics is great and fine, but the spirituality of God isn't about getting up on a pulpit and listening to a guy speak about how women need to be subservient. It's not about how homosexuality is a sin every week. We don't need to hear crap about race from a pulpit. We don't need to hear crap about politics from a pulpit. We don't need to hear that stuff. In Hebrews, it says we need to dive deeper into Christ. And I feel, in my heart of hearts, it's very tough to do that in a group. I'm trying to struggle with, why do churches exist in the first place? Because it seems like if Christ is about an individual walk, which is what I believe he is, it's about something that Amber can't help me with that. Pastor Joe can't help me with that. It's a thing. It's almost like trying to describe how I make love to my wife to somebody. It's nobody's business. It's between me and her. And it's very private. And so I don't know how to I think it's important for believers to get together, but I also think having people kind of influence your walk with Christ is dangerous, because you get radio interference, for lack of a better term, in
Right.
what you're trying to figure out. And I understand if you're a pastor of a church, especially of these Pentecostal and fundamentalist Baptist and all whatever these things are called, you want to control because you want people there every Sunday. You want people paying tithe. You want to sit there and groom their kids. Some of these guys, not all of them. I don't think all of them are sexual predators.
Right.
But I do think, whatever your carrot on a stick is, you don't want people coming up with their own ideas because then you can't control them. You said on one of these shows, you think there's a sexual predator in every church. And I was like, come on, man. But probably we talked about that, and you had a guest that said the same thing, and we talked about that. I think most people that go to church are trying to be good people, but that doesn't mean they're good people. And I looked up the stats. I think there's 3.5% of all men are some sort of rapist, but then you hear about 3 out of 5 women have been molested. Those 3 people getting around? So,
yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of movement for 3.5% of the population. So if you probably go to a church that has 200 people, you probably do have 2 or 3 knuckleheads in there that are evil bastards that are going to, you don't need to leave. And that's a scary thought too. But it's good to have that information in your head and knowing that, maybe the youth pastor doesn't need to come and pick my daughter up by himself at 9:00 at night to take her to the movies or something. Maybe there needs to be a group of children go or something like that. It's just good to know that, hey, man, even though that people go to church and this guy has got pastor in front of his name, he's not necessarily a good man.
Right. And I am very fascinated coming out of it, like how pastors get put on such a pedestal. I remember one pastor I sat under where his deacons would actually dress him before the service, and they would lint roll him and spritz him with cologne before he went out and started preaching.
Wait a minute. This was at one of your churches?
Yes, at one of the churches I used to go to.
So he's like a bad guy pro wrestler.
He is, like, shrugging that on.
There's something weird about the connection between pastors, pro wrestlers, and used car salesmen. I think they're almost the same personality type.
They are. Well, I think that fundamentalism tends to attract people with the same personality traits because, like with my dad, he saw an opportunity to be able to grow and hide his narcissistic personality syndrome inside the allowable behavior of a man in the IFB or in the Independent Fundamental Baptist.
Living in debt and stealing in the name of the Lord.
Yep.
Temptations, baby.
I love the Temptations. I love them. My papa was a Rolling Stone.
That's right. Doo-doo.
And wherever he laid his hat was his home.
Yep. And isn't that about your dad? That is songs about old Mr. Schultz.
Old Daddy-O.
Yeah, old Daddy-O. Well, I wanted you to drive, but are you ready for your questions that I had for you? Or do you have any questions you want to ask me? Or do you want to go into the movie or our history anymore or what?
We'll wrap it up with the movie.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and ask your questions.
Okay. Now, this is coming from, and I don't know if this is my fault and your fault probably. I don't know if we've done a good job of why I'm on the show, but I thought me and you, because it's like this guy doesn't have he's not, I've never been a part of anything fundamental. I've been to a couple Pentecostal church when I dated this girl, and I thought, I don't like anything happening in here. This is like Gypsy Rose Lee bullshit. I don't want to be, this is craziness. I mean, if people like that, God bless you. But to me, wow.
It's a lot.
I mean, it doesn't work with me. I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that scene. I mean, I think, I don't know. We're all different parts of the body of Christ, and somebody's got to be the anus. That's how I look at some of this stuff. So
I know a lot of buttholes.
Yeah, there's a lot of buttholes in the body of Christ. So we're very regular, I think, as a religion. So this is somebody who I don't want to use the word atheist, just God was a vacuum. There was no God. It was like talking about a planet scientists haven't even discovered that's actually got people on it. I mean, it was something that was devoid of my life. So you got somebody who for a large part of my life, when I was living at home, more than half, probably in the 60-something%, I never heard about God. Then I heard about God, and it was a weird kind of cult thing. Then I had to kind of rectify in my own mind how these people are now going to church, and there's a guy who's good, but yet there's still this crazy abuse and tension at home. And it was just like, but I kind of, the way I dealt with stuff is I just stayed away from everybody. I didn't, and being a boy, I had freedom that if I was a girl, I wouldn't probably had some of that freedom. So,
Right.
and thank God I'm a dude. I won the Olympics, the sexual organ Olympics.
You did.
Yeah.
You got the gold medal.
Yeah. And a silver medal is prettier than the gold medal, though. But anyway, so here we go. So this is somebody who's never had a struggle and has always been very agitated at people that abuse people in the name of God. In fact, this movie we just made, and it's the #1 rated horror comedy of all time, and #1 rated horror movie on IMDb.
I know. I'm so excited about that.
We're very proud of that, and it's now streaming everywhere. And it's not for everybody. It's a very strange movie because we're strange filmmakers. But anyway, that's kind of how I'm ministering, is that movie at the moment. And there may be things I'm doing down the road too. But I wanted to ask you questions because I don't understand how people walk around in that fog. How do people walk around with all of these contradictions that they constantly mentally have to reconcile when you're in a legalistic religion? And I think that's where a lot of glaring holes are. So I'm going to ask you some questions about your time in your chains, for lack of a better word. So,
yes.
All right. So I know a lot about your story, and I think people that you had something drop today, of course, this will be months down the road, but you had another part of your story today. So hopefully people will know who you are, so they don't need a backstory on your stuff. So I'm just going to jump right in. So when did you know, as a little girl, or maybe you were older, but when did you know that something wasn't right? Like when you're like, the stuff I'm hearing at church is not reconciling with the behavior of my family, my father, what's happening at home. There's some sort of disconnect. When did you first come to realize that?
I think I was around 12 or 13. It was the first time I realized that my dad was actually an alcoholic. He hid his alcoholism and his drug use like pretty well. And at 12, you start noticing more things. And I realized that all of a sudden that things that he was saying and doing and allowing for us and disallowing for us did not quite match up with what the church told us that we were allowed to do or not allowed to do, but we had to keep it hidden. And in my mind, if we were doing the right thing, we shouldn't have to hide it.
So it was really your parent actually kind of deconstructed a little bit from the church because he couldn't keep up with their lofty bullshit, because he was an alcoholic and a very flawed human being, which we all are very flawed human beings.
Yes.
So you can't keep up with that bullshit is the point. And they control you with that. So at 12 is when you kind of said, I smell a rat.
Yes.
So that probably, though, made you more confused about your father than it did actually about the church, because the church was sacrosanct, right?
Yes.
And so it kind of started this thing about dad is a problem, not necessarily the church. Okay.
Right. And it became also, I would be angry that we would have to hide the fact that my dad was married before, or he wouldn't be able to preach. Despite all of the abuse and all the things, as a kid, you still look up to your parents. Like, I mean, at least I did. I looked up to my dad a lot and idolized him. And it made me angry that we would have to hide parts of ourselves so he could serve in the church.
Right.
And
so the hypocrisy thing
mm-hmm.
is what got you too. That's kind of what started tearing it apart for you, is the fact that we weren't good enough for this effing church. Mm-hmm. So we're trying hard. Mm-hmm. And so even people that are attending the church are feeling ripped apart because life doesn't equal what's happening in the church.
Right.
That's pretty powerful. I like that. That's a good answer. Of course, it's a good answer. It's true, but you know what I mean. I mean,
I do.
that's thought provoking. So no wonder you were confused, because you were kind of upset at the church and your dad at the same time for the same problems.
Yes. So the easiest thing for me to do was just to kind of bury it and do what I thought I was supposed to do, which was be the good little submissive girl that waited for an arranged marriage type of thing. Because my dad was trying to set me up with people that he worked with at a factory whenever I was like 16.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, this is the right thing to do. I'm just going to hold on to this. This is what I know, even though I still had that warring inside of me.
Who's Warren?
Who's Warren? He's
no,
Jeff's.
Yeah, okay. What made you keep going when you knew something was wrong?
I had no out.
Yeah, you had no out. So I've watched a couple of your episodes and stuff. That's a problem. So you have no hope of reprieve in this religion, especially if you're a female, especially if you're underage.
Yes.
So, and again, you've said before on this show you've had dissociative amnesia. So I guess you would stuff a lot of stuff away and just pretend like certain things weren't happening and just kind of keep going cognitively and hoping that things got better, I guess. Or things would make sense one day. Did you feel like at some point you weren't a child anymore because you couldn't have fun like a kid? You were worried about legalism, or did you have a pretty good childhood too?
I grew up very early because and I think with my situation is kind of somewhat unique to my situation because excuse me, because of the abuse I was in, it was like crossover between the church and home. Let me get a drink.
Sinner.
So ask me the question again. I lost what the question was. Dissociative amnesia kicked in.
If a train left Detroit at 75 miles an hour.
Damn it, I'm bad at math problems.
Well, I was wanting to expose that in you, but what made you keep going? You knew something was wrong in the religion. You knew at that point you got an early lesson in human depravity. Dad couldn't live up to the lofty ideals of the church. Dad may not have been the greatest guy in the world either. Church made you expose the fact that Dad wasn't great, and you kind of you had some animosity towards the church because we weren't good enough. So fuck you, right? So, so what made you keep going into faith and keeping Amber from the straight pin to the nose and the all black and the goth Amber that we never got to see? What kept you from doing that?
My trauma response is to fawn, so I do everything I can to keep things as smooth as possible. And so the safest thing for me to do was to stay submissive and stay in that line. And looking back, this is where the spiritual abuse came in. Scripture was constantly being hurled at me every single day. My dad has the entire Bible memorized from cover to cover, and he can expound on it like nobody I've ever met before, which is why he did so well in the ministry. And he would take that and he would say, well, you're supposed to forgive XYZ and you need to let it go, because if you don't, then you're not right with God. And so it was like this constant battle for me to, okay, I'm the one that's wrong. I'm the one that's not doing the right thing. And so it's like I have to constantly forgive what he's doing, what the church is doing, and continue to move on. And that, because my walk is not about me and not about people, it's about God. And so if I base my faith on what people are doing, then I really don't have faith at all. That kind of thing.
I just like the Uberus. I mean, that's what I said earlier about pro wrestlers and preachers being so much alike. It's like somebody comes in there and slaps you, and you're like, what the hell, man? And you're like, you need to forgive me because the Bible says you need to let things go and turn the other cheek.
Yes, it's just turn the other cheek.
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess you're right. You know, as the thing is still stinging on your cheek, man. I swear to God, fuckers like that kill me. You got to, I guess, edit my language out for your housewives.
That's fine. I have plenty of people that swear. You're fine.
Well,
you're not the first one.
Good. I'm trying to be good for you. This is a stupid question, I guess, at this point, but were you afraid to rebel? Were you afraid to speak up your thoughts?
Yes, very much so, because they honed in that, children obey their parents. They would throw in my face that if we disobeyed, then God's going to shorten our life, that we could be killed in a car accident.
God damn, really?
Yeah. That if we obeyed, we would extend our life. And so there was this constant fear hung over me that if I wasn't doing the right thing all the time and submitting to my authority figures, then I was going to be in trouble with God, not just with my parents or with the church.
God almighty. That is.
So it's a fear rhetoric. It's like just fear, just very fear-based. Fear controls.
There's no wonder there's so much rampant leaving of the faith. I mean, it's just they just abuse people. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine telling a child, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to die. Hey, you coming Sunday? We're going to paint Easter baskets or what? I mean, it's just like, dude, what? God, it's so weird, right? Like, it's like, it's a God of love and Jesus loves you and it's all good. And the whole time you're being abused at home by somebody who's supposed to be. And then it's like, I have an original thought. Well, you're going to die in hell. Tomorrow, have you ever seen Final Destination? The logs are going to come off the truck and impale your face.
No, literally like that. My dad would use sometimes that as an example, because my dad was weird and let us watch scary movies.
I was going to ask about that here in a second, actually.
Yeah, and so it was constantly this battle of. I remember one time I went to a pastor's wife whenever I was like 17, 18, and I told her I felt like I was at a fork in the road, and that if I went the wrong direction, that it was going to be my destruction. And that wrong direction is actually to where I'm at now. And that was leaving and breaking away from what I knew. I knew I had to make a decision. I was 17. And so it was still a struggle then.
I cut you off. I apologize. So I felt like you were going to say something else. You went to the wife of a pastor. You said you were at a fork in the road. She
basically told me that I need to always choose the right road, which is what God tells me to do, which is basically what the pastor tells me to do, or my dad tells me to do. And that's right. That's my safest bet. And so I stuck with that. Well into my 20s. And then it wasn't until like the mental health crisis in my family that it really like shook things up.
This is actually funny that you brought up the horror movie thing, because we had dinner with friends Sunday, which was nice. And you mentioned that your dad would let you watch horror movies, but when the nude scene would come on, you'd have to turn away or they'd have to fast forward through it, which is funny to me. And I don't want to get into the 1% weirdness of it, but it's the mental Olympics that I think people in fundamental religions have to do, where they have to justify certain things and certain things are evil. So your dad is like, seeing someone get hacked apart with a machete and blood going everywhere is fine. Seeing a pair of boobs, that's awful. So was it confusing to you as you were developing what these weird ass morality lines were being drawn for you that you couldn't cross? This was okay. Seeing someone being hacked apart for entertainment, that's fine. We're going to laugh at that. Her head came clean off. Another one takes her shirt off. It's like, oh God. So was that confusing? Did that cause a lot of...
It was. Yeah. It was really confusing, but always they would justify, like even this was justified with the Bible. There's violence in the Bible.
There's sex in the Bible.
There's sex in the Bible too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's incest in the Bible. There's like a whole bunch of stuff in the Bible that people don't like to talk about. But it was really confusing. It was really hard because I never really knew what was really right and what was really wrong. It was like this constant need to be on and performing and jumping through these hoops to make sure that there was just no rest. There was just no mental rest at all. And And my therapist actually thinks it's one of the many reasons I developed the dissociative disorder, because my brain just couldn't keep up with what I had to do. So I just checked out and just followed the steps to be outwardly good, even though on the inside my brain was like melting.
Huh. So that was an active war in your mind of trying to figure out how to make it and what was expected of you, I guess, right?
Yeah. It was always a constant war.
When you laid your head on your pillow at night as a teenage girl or a preteen or whatever, not talking about all the dirty thoughts you had because it was puberty, but as far as, yeah, well, you know that happened with human beings. That's the other thing too, is that was another question I was going to have. And I'll skip to that right now, but is sex how they control women? Because everything is based, when you're a female in that situation, everything's about you getting married, having children, being submissive because of your sex. If you had a thought, an impure thought, you're evil. You know, puberty, I don't care how religious you are, puberty is weird for every human being. And we all have things we're ashamed of and stuff that we did right. That was crazy. I mean, was sex the main device of control over young women in the IBF movement?
Yes, because our purity and our virginity was our price. Like, our worth was very much based on our level of purity. So if I held hands with a boy or kissed a boy, that like knocked me down on that purity scale and made me less worthy of a godly man to marry me. And so
you were jeopardizing your future too.
Yes. Yeah. I remember whenever I moved out and I was still attending very fundamentalist churches, that a youth pastor got up and said, if a girl is out of her home and she is working and supporting herself, you do not touch her with a 10-foot pole because she's out of God's will. A girl should stay under the headship of her father until she is married. It doesn't matter if she is 13 or 30 or 50. She's supposed to stay home. And so I was kind of always the bit of a black sheep, because I mean, I kissed a boy when I was 16, which totally ruined the whole relationship for me, because I was a Jezebel. Because this guy was wanting to court me, and he wasn't even allowed to talk to me.
The fact that you just use the word court, it just sends cringe down my spine.
It's a cringy term, isn't it?
God, it's like, I feel like we're in like the era of the serfs and feudal. Yeah, exactly. You know what's funny is there was a movie called Witch. Since we're making movies, I'm consuming movies more to kind of get ideas and stuff. But there's a movie called Witch that was made by the guy that did The Northman, that just came out in The Lighthouse. And he makes these movies are good and bad, but he's excellent at writing period. He's excellent at period speech.
It's like moist. Don't say it.
Right. I don't like the period dress. Ooh. Anyway, he's good at writing period dialogue like that.
Period.
That is menstrual and Ant Flow and Tampax and Kotex. Anyway, so God, see these tangents, and it's early still. But anyway, so he's good at that, and I learned by listening to him. And if you ever watch the movie Witch, which has that Anna Joy Taylor with the big eyes, she's real pretty, new actress. Mm-hmm. It's got her in it. If you ever watch that movie, which you should, it's really good. They're very legalistic in that movie. They're the Puritans. In fact, this guy's so nutty. I think this is the right thing. He's so legalistic, like the Puritans kind of ask him to leave. Like everything's black and white in the Bible. And that led to his demise in this situation. But when I listened to the guy the director, his name's Robert something, I can't remember his name. He's pretty good. He said, you got to understand America, why we're prudes is because the Puritans are our ancestors.
Yes.
And they're the ones who are the whack jobs that had to leave England. Like they were so crazy and fundamentalist and stuff like that. That's why, and it's like our roots, if you're European descent in this country, if you're either like a prisoner or an adventurer, you're probably a descendant of this really wacky, legalistic Puritan bullshit that is completely opposite of what Christ's grace is. And that's why, we still can't see boobs on television without paying for it. And it's 2023 and it's like, oh, boobs. Oh my God. We're still prudes in a lot of ways in this country. And like, we live in a day, Amber, we live in a day and age when we record this. Last week, a guy dressed up as the devil on the Grammys that nobody watched. He looks like the mascot for deviled ham. He's up with horns. I
thought the same thing.
People are losing their minds over this thing. And I'm like, he's a cartoon character. Do you think the devil really looks like that? Do you think there's a devil that's like, yes, he looked like a moron. And the song was not good. And it just wasn't, I thought it was, from an artistic standpoint, it's like, okay, they're going that trope, whatever. Right. And it's like, and the Christians are like, this is showing you that the Holy One, they worship the devil. I actually know Satanists, and they're like, this is no Satan, what the Satanist would ever do. That I had a conversation with a Satanist yesterday for a long period of time, and we were joking about that and laughing at that stuff. But yeah, this is I'm going to say the stupidest thing I've said. I'm sorry for you and anybody watching this show. When I watch your show, your channel, or I don't know if there's shows or not, but when I watch your channel, I feel bad. Like, men are just gross, and there are good men out there. My daughter is going through the same thing. She thinks all men are horrible just because there's so much negativity, and there's decent men out there. And it's tough to be a man right now in a way, because you have a lot of clapback right now on all these awful guys. So it's like we're all kind of being grouped in with, all these dirtbags who molest and who do awful, horrible things. And it's like, just because I have a penis doesn't mean I'm necessarily a bad human being. I mean, I think.
Welcome to being a woman.
Yeah.
Men are being marginalized now.
Well, and it's only fair. I just want to say that I'm just sorry that anybody had to, and it angers me to be, it angers me that anybody who uses God hurts a child or a human being or a woman or a man or anybody. It's inexcusable. I wish God would employ me. I wish I could beat the shit out of these dudes, like brass knuckles and chains, and beat the fuck out of them and just kick them in the rib cage. I guess that's not godly, but who knows? Maybe there is
he flipped tables, so it's fine. He drove people out of the temple.
Yeah, but he didn't break people's ribs, which I would have liked.
We don't know that. We don't know what wasn't recorded. It's
That's
like
true.
Jesus and his mob.
I really, there's a couple movies that are serious movies actually that I'd like to make, and there's a lot of information about a Jew walking around different parts of the world in those missing years between, and it would be real cool if like Jesus like kind of traveled the earth. What did he do for all those years? Did he went away so we could come back? I think that's another thing too. A little mini sermon here. I think a lot of people who are in these uneducated churches where the pastors are allowed to speak to people without some sort of degree, which is fine. I just, you're going to get people's personal opinions and not educated theology, but, which is fine. Jesus didn't have a degree either, but I think, I think one of the cool things about, thinking about like what Jesus did, sometimes if you feel like you're called to be a minister, you got to go away to come back. I mean, you got to get your shit together, because Jesus did. I mean, he didn't, when he was 13, he didn't just start his gimmick. He had to go away and figure out life. And I think I know a lot of these churches that you go to and other things will have like 12-year-old ministers up there giving marital advice. And it's like, honey, don't talk to me unless you've lost 2 homes already.
Right.
Don't talk to me unless you've been to marriage counseling because your wife's going to leave you or whatever. So,
Right.
but I have one more question for you.
What's that?
Did your modesty in your dress, since kind of your sexuality was kind of your main, it was kind of like your value in that church and also your detriment, I guess. It's like this whole, just because you're a woman, it was all about what you could provide for a man. Did you think your modesty and dress would help you win souls to church?
Yes.
Did it ever succeed?
No. Short answer, no.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of want to make that clear. All these women out here that are covering themselves up. You had you've done a terrific job with your channel. You did something called Proverbs, the woman of Proverbs. What is it? 31.
Proverbs 31. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's about this lady she sounds like a boss. She sounds like there should be a movie about her. How she kind of operates. How she's lovely. Her husband praises her. Her children loves her, but she still goes out. She's entrepreneurial. She's got people underneath her authority. She takes care of her family, but she takes care of herself, and she looks good doing it. That's the other thing too. Like she takes pride in her looks, so it's not vanity for a woman to look attractive or anything like that. I mean, it's there's a lot to be taken out of that, and
Right.
She's wearing nice clothes. She's not wearing a burlap sack up to her neck
or a denim skirt to the floor.
Her denim skirt to the floor, and I think there was funny. You did it like I haven't watched all your videos because you've done a good job producing a lot. But there's one about this. You did a reaction video about this lady saying women should dress like queens, and then you showed a bunch of pictures of Renaissance queens where all their boobs were hanging out of their shirts. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, man, Amber's on fire with this job. I'm like, hey, your channel is great. I hope people, if they just came across this, gross. If they start watching it out of the blue, what's a better way to put it? I hope they go back and watch. And I'm an atypical guest. There's most of the people you have on here are nice women who are very polite, and they've gone through some really rough shit. And it breaks my heart every time I watch one of these interviews.
I got some men coming too. Don't worry.
Gross.
Gross.
I don't need to hear that.
Nope.
That's the problem.
Let's wrap that up on that note.
Very good.
Promote your stuff, which is also our stuff.
Yes.
Got some stuff in the works.
Yeah. I mean, I'm part of Big and Funky Productions. I mean, we make comedy sketches and music videos, but right now we've been focusing on these horror movies, these comedy horror movies about the Great Smoky Mountains and the legends of lore. And movie number 2 in the series is about the lore and the legend of religious dogma. And there's boogers, butts, blood, boobs, swear words, bestiality, but at the heart of it, it's a story. Wrestling. There's a redemption arc, and it's about my life and about my testimony. And I'm the lead in that movie, and we got a third one coming out that's about I don't know if I should give it away, but I mean, it's about the effects of someone being abused as a child, and how sometimes, I don't want to give anything away about our third movie, but if you hurt a child, you can create a monster. And there's a lot of people, you're a miracle because you're wonderful. And I know you're messed up because you've told me a lot of personal stuff, and God, you're freaking weird, but you are a warrior for good, man. You're a soldier of light. And I think that's awesome. And you should be praised because not only did you get out for the benefit of your family, you are trying to lead people out of the burning building where you've churches that talk about how black people aren't equal to white people, or women should be always subservient to men, and leave out all the other parts that are the rules for the guys. There are churches that just constantly flame against people's sexual choices while the pastor is shacking up with a 13-year-old or whatever. I mean, there's so much hypocrisy, and you're out there calling a spade. And I think that takes strength. I know it takes strength. And I think you should be praised for that. And I just wanted to come on and thank you for having me on. I just wanted to get on here, and the movies you look them up, Big and Funky Productions on YouTube. But really, I just wanted to get on here and say that I'm a fan. I know you're a friend of mine, and we've been friendly for off and on since you were 19. But I'm just a fan of what you're doing, because it makes me sad. There's not enough people doing it. People, for some reason, they get out of a bad situation, they shut up. And I understand that some people don't have the mental wherewithal. People don't have the resources. People don't have the know-how. It takes talent to kind of do what you're doing too, with editing and stuff like that, and promotion and stuff. But I'm just a huge fan. Keep it up, and don't let the people, tear you down. I know one thing you've told me privately, there are a lot of people who are already, even though this is the beginning, there are so many people attacking you, which you put yourself out on the internet, you're going to be attacked no matter what. You just show videos of kittens playing with yarn, and people are going to say nasty things to you. But this is scary stuff for people. You're shaking the foundations. Hey, independent Baptist, whatever the IBF stuff. Hey, go enjoy it. But if you're hurting people, if you're perpetrating a bunch of bullshit, if you're perpetrating stuff that hurts people and it's not true, if you think that your dress is affecting anybody, you think you're abstaining from certain pleasures in life is leading anybody to Christ. It's not. It makes you look weird. Nobody wants to be like anybody in any of those churches because you look like you're snotty. And you don't look like you're having fun. I never met very many people in that whole religion that look like they're enjoying life. Some people in some legalistic societies and stuff, and churches and stuff, they do have good lives, and there's probably a lot of safety in believing like that. Not a lot of people. I would say hardcore drug use is probably a little bit lower than the regular population, but.
I have a theory on that one too.
Okay, well, you can spill that one of your days too. But I mean, it seems like there's some things that may be safer. But there's, at the end of the day, at what price? If you sacrifice liberties for safety, you deserve neither. A great American once said that too. So, anyway, I'm a fan. Thank you for having me on. I know I've been on for a long time. You'll have to edit a lot of this out, but just keep it up, man. I know we talk all the time, but I'm just a huge fan.
I really enjoyed having you on today, Vinny. Thank you so much. And if anyone else wants to come on and have an interview, the directions to do so are in the description box below. Until next time, my beautiful friends, everyone has a story. What is yours?